we have to be different. Like we can't be a we don't have millions and millions of dollars to put out in advertising and giant staff. Like Jeff and Tiff are here. They're, our kids are around. Like
Love it.
we're very different. Like, so we are a family, and we do things just like your normal family home. Like there's people that have been here for 20 plus years. Ron Hodgson is all around and comes in and asks what we're doing. So this ethos that I needed to create was like, how do I get the customer to be part of our family? Like that's always like in the back of my mind.
Welcome to Driven Loyalty, the podcast with proven strategies and expert insights tailored for automotive professionals looking to maximize retention, enhance customer experience, and drive sustainable growth. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Driven Loyalty, a podcast dedicated to strategies around creating more loyal customers inside of our dealership. I am so excited about my guest today. A little farther north than me, but and probably a little bit colder than me. But I am super excited about this guest. Guys, I have Josh Stegman with me from Ron Hodgson Chevrolet. Josh, how you doing, man? What's up?
I'm real good, man. Thanks for having me. It's crazy to get an invite to go on a podcast and talk about, all the world car stuff. And I really like what you guys are all about. Like building that loyalty to customers is
fun.
Why we're here.
It's a challenge, right? Like it's a challenge, man. And I appreciate you taking the time to come jam with me. Hey, look though, we can't do like great content like this without our amazing sponsor. So we always like to just take a moment to quickly thank our sponsor. And here's a quick message from them. Okay, Josh. Like I was telling you earlier, before we started recording today, I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story. Because like I'm always fundamentally fascinated how someone just like wakes up one day and goes, yeah, I'm going to be in the car business. Doesn't normally work that way. So let's kick off our podcast today with a little origin story. How in the world did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't start here. I started in action sports, and I was, in skateboarding, snowboarding for 14 years. And then I was part of stores and build outs and mall events and skate parks in malls, and
that's cool.
Building community park. So that's truly where like my semi-professional world started. And I grew with that company, and it was fantastic. And then I realized that the next thing I wanted to do was kind of figure out the backside of retail. So that's like wholesale and distribution. And I had an opportunity to work for a couple brands, and went over and worked with them. And this is where the Hodgson connection started. There's three brothers, Jamie, Jeff, and Ryan. And Jamie Hodgson had started a company called Yeti Snow-O-Mex. And I came on board to help launch that globally, which was pretty cool. We built and manufactured this snow bike conversion kit out of St. Albert, and
it's pretty wild, setup.
It's in the X Games. We have 2 or 3 X Games gold medals with that machine. And then as things go, we sold that company to like another giant manufacturer, and away we went. I was like, oh, now what am I going to do? So then I got an opportunity to launch, and you're going to kind of see this theme happening with me. Then I launched cannabis in Canada. It was kind of cool to be part of that. And I was like, I'm going to take everything I learned and like change the ingredients and see if I can do what I said I could do.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was a big, exciting time. And it was like, oh, this fringe industry is coming. And then right around then is when like COVID hit. And I had another opportunity, or was approached by another kind of local Edmonton company to launch an interior glass program. And this is about as far away as I could be from my comfort zone, from anything I can do. Like custom railings and shower glass. So I knew nothing about glass, and I got to go all over and learn about it. And I was like, man, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you know, customers need support they don't understand.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is a world where nobody understands what glass can do. Everybody lives in a box. And I was like, I can disrupt this entire world. This is fantastic. So then, you know, COVID comes, the world goes crazy. And I knew that with this glass, I had this potential to like launch sneeze guards, and I could do it fast and
Nice.
quicker than everybody else. So I post a thing, and sure enough, within like 10 minutes of me posting this on LinkedIn that I was, you know, these things were available. Um, the Jeff Hodgson, Jamie's other brother,
Mhm.
he's like, and his wife are like, you got to come back. You got to come to the dealership. And of course, I've known the whole family for years and years. And I was like, you know, I don't know what COVID, none of us did. We didn't know what COVID was going to be, but I
Sure.
knew we needed cars. And I was like, you know, what an interesting dance. Like, yeah, I'll come. What a challenge. So I came on board here at the dealership as the creative marketing director. And it's, you know, we're really unique. We're like one of the last family run and operated GM stores. Like, I can't speak about the US, but definitely in Canada. We have a complete in-house marketing team. So it's me and my coworker, Jackie, and Tiff Hodgson. Like, we're like the driving force. We do
That's
90%
cool.
of everything indoors, in-house. And voila, that's how I got here.
Dude, talk about some fluke events. I've heard some like doozies left, right, here and there, showed up for the wrong interview, that kind of stuff. But man, seriously, like you went everything from like action sports to cutting glass to like, oh yeah, the dealer
Yeah.
world. That sounds like fun. So okay, so you've been in it for a while now. Like, has did you get bit by the bug? I mean, are you going anywhere? Are you like, oh my gosh, this is it? I'm in it.
Well, you know, I think this bug is much bigger than I thought. It's more like a bear.
It
It's
is. It is.
it's not small by any means, and there's so many avenues and so many systems and so much. So I don't think that there's ever not going to be anything to do, which is important for like what I would say anybody in the industry is even if you just came in and started in sales, there's so many avenues and careers you could choose to grow if you wanted to. Um, it's just the pace of this and like using my branding and marketing experience is like it's every month. Like we have to do something new.
Always new
The
challenges.
amount of ads I've created is mind blowing. So I think this is like for me at least it's been like just keep sharpening the spear. Like I have to be new and different and creative every month.
Well,
So I'm kind of addicted to that.
well, dude, I was gonna say you picked the right space for that, right? Because like we reset almost every 30 days,
Yeah.
so like you're always having to come up with something new and something fun. And this is kind of a perfect segue kind of into what we're talking about because like again, I think creative marketing has a monster role to participate in creating loyal customers. And here's my thesis, Josh. Is as an industry, we've been using the word retention in lieu of the word loyalty, and you'll find that really common in our industry. We talk about retention numbers all the time, but
Right. Right.
here's my thing: is retention is not the same thing as loyalty, right? You might retain me as a customer, but the reason you retain me as a customer is simply because, well, you're 2 miles up the road. It's just convenient. All right.
Right.
It's not because you did anything special. It's just you're convenient to get to. So therefore, I'm coming to you. But that doesn't mean I'll always come to you. If a value proposition comes up to me that's better, then I'll go somewhere else. And we see this in the industry a lot, specifically in fixed ops, right? I don't know if you know this, but the average number right now, and there's an epidemic going on in our industry. And I think there's tools out there that are going to help us with this. And we're going to get into that today. But there's an epidemic of just amount of customers that are leaving us once the warranty expires. Because retention, the manufacturer stopped measuring that. right? After the warranty expires, they're like, nah, we did our job, right? So the average number right now is between 40 and 60% of our customers stop doing business with us once the warranty expires. And, that just can't happen anymore. So that's why I'm putting this podcast out there, in sponsorship with Podium, because I just think that as a thesis, we have to change our mindset of it's not enough to retain customers. We have to try to make loyal customers. And I don't want to pick your brain, man, because you have that kind of creative approach, that marketing approach. What do you think are some ways, that you've seen, or maybe some ways that as an industry we could actually do better to create more loyal customers?
Well, you nailed it exactly. And you can apply that same thing to many different industries at the moment too. Is like, you think of your watering hole or your local watering hole, it's
Sure.
convenient. So we're busy, things are moving fast. And I think this relay of information really became a bottleneck for what I guess the dealerships level of customer experience, what we want to be. And
Sure.
again, like I said at the beginning, we have to be different. Like we can't be a we don't have millions and millions of dollars to put out in advertising and giant staff. Like Jeff and Tiff are here. They're, our kids are around. Like we're very different. Like, so we are a family, and we do things just like your normal family home. Like there's people that have been here for 20 plus years. Ron Hodgson is all around and comes in and asks what we're doing. So this ethos that I needed to create was like, how do I get the customer to be part of our family? Like that's always like in the back of my mind. What are we doing? How do you come in and feel welcomed? And, you used a very interesting word, like loyal, and how do we bridge that gap with customers? And to me too, it's like, how do I earn your business? Like,
right,
you got so much choice today, and even the way the car shopping experience has changed is, you and I were kind of discussing too, like there was this time where like, oh, call my guy, and you'd give your business card to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now somebody loves a vehicle and they're so armed before they've even stepped foot into a dealership that's where the information has to adapt and change. And then on the other side of it too, nobody loves servicing. Servicing your vehicle is like the last thing any human wants to spend money on.
It generally sucks, right?
So we have these two things that it's like, okay, what do we do? So then there's websites and chat features and all this kind of stuff. And I saw an opportunity for us because I started to see my first red flag that happened for me was I watched email retention dropping dramatically month over month. And like we said, we talked about that reset.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, this is strange. And COVID had a lot to do with that too.
Of course.
And then all of a sudden, no dealer had proper inventory. It was like, if I saw people in COVID buying a car as like an experience to get out of their house and go do something, because we were one of the few industries that were open. So then I really got to like spend some time and like, get an understanding of like a different side of the customer. And I was like, we're not fast enough.
Right.
That became
it's experience. No, here I'm following you on this one, right? Because I'm totally with you on this as well, right? Like, I think like when I started in the business, I think the relationship, the trust factor, and I'm not saying that customers aren't looking to trust, the dealership as well, but that was almost what was kind of required to move into a transaction, right? I think today, if the experience is good, then you have the opportunity to create the relationship that will then get the trust and maintain that loyalty. That trust turns into loyalty, right? But the experience is what trumps almost everything today. And for me, I find the core of every experience, the breakdown of here's what I love about experiences. They're good and bad. If you read any Google reviews out there, the word experience is used like in almost every single Google review out there, right? And it's usually was good or bad. But here's what I found is that the breakdown or the benefit or what made the experience great was all in the communication, right? Like a bad experience, almost 9 times out of 10 was a breakdown in some communication. A good experience was due to some really great communication. I'd love to get your thoughts though on that.
Yeah, you're 100%. And what we saw was like, so then you start asking the W's. When are people communicating? When's the opportune time? When do we need staff? Who are you talking to? You start going through all of it. And I started seeing this like evenings and nights, like after the dealership was closed, which makes sense. Like that's when people have a downtime and they're car shopping, or you
Mhm.
get the other customer who's car shopping right now while we're supposed to be on a podcast, and they're like scrolling through, looking through everything, like, oh, that's the one I want. And then they like, share it to your loved one or whoever. Hey, mom, check this out. This is what I want. And then, um, but they're looking for email is not an effective thing because
Mm.
it's you're busy with your work emails, and maybe some people don't want to like have a whole car buying conversation and have their IT team scour through them and be like, oh, I know your credit score. um
Well, it's
it
also who
wasn't
reads it. I read a stat. Actually, this is a Canadian stat. Since I've spent a lot of time in Canada, I actually know this is a Canadian stat. But the average Canadian, all right, has 100 unread emails, all right, for every one unread text message.
yeah, I should check mine right now this
Okay.
moment.
What do
Probably in
you
the
got? I'll
300.
check mine too. Let me see what you.
347 on this one, and I'm watching them pile up here at 27.
I'm at 435, and then I got like 4 unread text messages. So I'm with you. I'm almost exactly in line with you.
Right. And half of them are like, come to Cabela's, buy this new Yeti cup. Or the other one's like, uh, you know, what's going on this weekend? Turkeys.
Yes.
Turkeys were on sale because we didn't sell enough on Thanksgiving. It's like, oh man, I don't care. So that's what happened. Is our email boxes are so overwhelmed. We're getting inundated with all this stuff. It's just not, it became a collection box instead of an effective communication like it might have been, say, pre-COVID or going into that. And then everything's like signing you up for a subscription. It just never ends. So you're just like, oh my God, I can't unsubscribe fast enough.
Well, you know what? I see where you're going. I just want to kind of highlight something because I do remember, because I've been
Right.
in business long enough when email had like a 60% response rate. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Right.
remember when people like, you got an email. Oh crap. I better respond. You know what I mean? Like that was the thing. That's what you felt like. It was like, holy crap, I got an email. I better open it up and respond back to it. Right. But to your point, I think that's how we demolished it. We screwed it up. Agencies, maybe not us specifically, all right, but marketing world screwed this communication tool up by flooding it with things that did not have the intention to create a meaningful connection, but rather just yell at you, go, hey, I want to sell you something. I see where you're going with this, man.
Yeah. So this was a real thing. And then I don't know if you feel this, but there's kind of this unspoken rule about an email where you have 24 hours to respond. That's kind of like
Yeah.
this unspoken rule that if you send an email, you'll get to it in 24 hours. Well, we know in the customer buying cycle, that's too long. You've lost them.
Yep. 100%.
Way too long. So I'm watching this happen, and then it's like I'm looking at new technologies to come in and say, like, okay, what can we do to commandeer this? There's got to be a new way.
Mhm.
So then many websites all started dropping up with like a chat feature,
Sure.
and this is where we've all experienced it. It's like, oh, I need to talk to someone or whatever. What's on sale? I don't know what your issue is, or my iPhone won't load. You have all these issues, so you start talking, but then you we thought we were talking with a person, so we got catfished because
Yes.
it was just automated responses. And I think I want to be very clear. This is very different than something like AI. So
Huge.
I want to make two categories and be like, you have automated responses, which is just really good luck. Like, hi. And then the response is, thanks for reaching out today. Well, of course, that's what every
Well,
human says. You haven't had a connection yet. And then
I'm
it's
with
like,
you. You know what I see. You know what I've seen, Josh, is and I got excited about live chat. To be honest with you, when it first came out, we were actually very early in on live chat. I think my dealership was using it around 2010. So we were very
right,
early adopters of live chat because I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. A customer is going to have a conversation over chat with one of my staff. They're going to create a meaningful connection, and then they're going to come in, and instead of it being a 4.5 hour process, it's going to be a 30-minute process. I'm like, this is it. And I thought in the beginning that is the direction we were heading in. And then as an industry, we went and screwed it up again. And what we did is we turned live chat into just a glorified form fill, like just a
right.
lead form fill, right? So it actually had no intentions of, to your point, making that connection. Its objective was to collect your first name, last name, email address, blood type, shoe size, and firstborn, so that I can send it into a CRM, and that CRM can send you an automated reply saying, thank you for your inquiry. We'll get back to you when it's convenient for us and not convenient for you. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. I'll let you I'll let you continue.
You explained it perfectly well. Like we put layers and layers and wedges. So what we thought was making it faster and more efficient for us, we just kept putting more layers between us and the customer.
Yes.
So this was like, okay, it's not working. It's not, you're not a family, right? I'll go back to our ethos. You're not part of our family if we're putting wedges between you.
Really good point.
So I scoured and scoured. And again, coming from a lens, not just in automotive, but like true brand experience, I was like, we got to be different. And I wanted to move fast and I wanted to be a disruptor. Like those are my ingredients. So I reached out, I had two avenues: create my own AI or partner with somebody that had as close to what I needed as could be, because it's a time thing and it's an energy and investment thing. And it was like, okay. So I went through, and this is like before people rolled them out. And this is where I'll ping Podium in. So one of my giant, and every dealership's issue is getting that review. So you had talked about that review for a second. Well, that review is so important for your searchability, your credibility, all these like quick checklists that a customer is going to go to see if we can earn their business. They want to know a quick snapshot. And, I don't know about you, but when I read Google reviews, I like to read the top 5 and the absolute bottom ones.
I'm the
mostly,
same type of weirdo. Yes, 100%.
mostly because they're entertaining. And,
Yes.
you're looking in there for like some fundamental, like human flaw, but
Yeah.
most of the time, and it's just a really amazing story of someone didn't understand what they were doing. Or, I'm setting up this blender and it didn't plug into the wall. Okay.
Or
Not a
like,
real
like I
problem.
was saying earlier, or it's like a breakdown in communication. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they said one thing, but really meant another. Or, I dropped off my vehicle for service and then I never heard back from them. They didn't tell me how much it was going to cost. You know what I mean? Like, anyways, sorry.
Yeah. 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 And then it's like, okay, none of these are real. I'm going to the dealership. So anyway, back to what I was doing. I got Podium connected with us because I had a Google review issue, and it's getting that review from somebody. So that is the hardest part. And partly because of how Google set it up, is you have this valuable tool that every industry in the world wants, but you can only do that if you had a Google Gmail account. So then they're like forcing you to like, and then it's like, again, too many layers. Customer doesn't care. Don't be bothered. Podium's tool allows any email address from anywhere to upload a Google review. And I was like, this is fantastic. And it happens in your messaging, in your phone. So it's like you pay for your invoice. By the time you walk to your car, or, picked up your tires, whatever your service was, you're getting the thing like, hey, how did we do? Like, we really want to know. And if we did something wrong, you have this ability to help make it better.
Well, that's right.
So,
I mean, that's your first critical point to creating a loyal customer, right? And maybe in the review they are telling you how wonderful it is and how loyal they are. Well, great. Even a better point to connect with them, or they, to your point, they didn't like something, but an opportunity to create a loyal customer. Based on your reply. I mean, I hate to say it, but I still see so many dealers out there that either don't reply to these at all right, or have a very candid, like copy and paste reply to them. And again, I think there's just, to your point, the missed opportunity here, because talk about one of those pivotal points to create a loyal customer, right?
And, they can get in the weeds and people have giant arguments. Again, that's great entertainment. But again, that was the thing. But as you'll see, that's at the end of the process. I still haven't increased that connection or that customer experience. I'm kind of nursing it on the back end. I'm chasing it.
You're waiting for everything to happen. Then you get it. I'm with you.
Exactly. So then, I was talking with Podium because I was like, how can I use this and integrate it with a new system? And they were like, well, Josh, we're creating an AI system. We've been working on it for months and months. And would you want to be part of rolling it out? And I was like, yeah, show me the demo. Again, I'm like everybody was. I was like, this can't be a form fill or a bot thing. That's not what, my ownership's never going to go for it. It's never going to fly.
Sure.
They're like, no, check this out. So they showed me some of the live conversations from their deck. And, everybody gets to see those when you're exploring the Podium, we'll call it the sales pitch.
Yep.
And that's when that's when the fireworks and the gears and this whole thing shifted for me. And I was like, how much ability do I have to make this my own? And they're like, as much as you want. And I was like,
and that's impressive, especially in our industry, because our industry really is full of a lot of boxes. I'm going to tell you that, right?
Yeah.
This is one of those key moments where I find that, when I had my dealership, I wasn't interested in doing a business with a vendor. I wanted to do business with a partner. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying everybody out there has to be a partner, right? You can run a very successful business by simply being a vendor, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? But I know from my perspective, and I think I'd like to get your thoughts on this too. A big part of my success, as being a dealer principal and an owner, is that I didn't have vendors, I had partners. And that to me is that type of fun. It's like, we don't have a box. We're gonna work and build this together with you. Sorry, continue though.
You're right, and that's that was a contingency, because I needed, again, remember my 3 laws, where I needed to be different, I needed to be family, and I needed to be disruptive. So they came in and said, yeah, go ahead, you can build your own thing, but we're 90% there. Plus, you already have the system that we're using. And it worked. I was up 800 reviews in a year from using the Google thing. They've proven themselves. No one's bugging me. It wasn't anything. It was just hey, I think we got something here. Mm-hmm. And so I dove in very early on, as quick as we could. And I was all in. Everybody was all in. But then this new thing, and I think it's really important that we ping pong this one around, and you can ask the questions out, was for the first time in my experience with the dealership, the ownership group was bought into something and everybody else was scared. And that to me is never how this process goes. So that told me I was onto something. Mm-hmm. I was like, they see it, they feel it, but everybody else is scared. So it was, my challenge now became, I don't have to sell this thing. I have to prove this AI system and what we're going to do and how we're going to make it work. So I think for me, that was that slowed my momentum down a little bit, but it gave me this other opportunity to dive in and build this. So what I mean by that, if you haven't experienced Podium, is we all get the same deck. We all get the same program. Of course, anybody who signs up for it, but how you build it out. And it's done with a series of questions and phrases and prompts. Early on when I was on it, it was we were doing this over Google shared docs between developers. Now it's all integrated and beautiful and built in and ready for anybody. But that's where we got a moment to put our soul into this and say, we're not just going to have this bloodthirsty AI, Terminator type Skynet thing. We had this opportunity to build a new employee.
Well, and I think that's really key for anybody out there watching and listening right now, Josh, because look, a tool is only as good as how well you use it. But also an AI is only as good as the objective you give it, right?
Right.
And I do appreciate. I'm with you. I'm greatly appreciate the way Podium's approach it in the sense of like, here's a box, but now you get to decide what you kind of want to build the box out to be. Right. And I think that's where the difference in dealerships can really kind of play out. I mean, it sounds like to me, your guys' objective was we want to have meaningful conversations and connections where maybe another dealership's objective may just be using AI as again, another lead generating tool. Give me their first name, last name, email address, and so on, so on. So I can shove it into my CRM. But you guys wanted to go a different approach to that. Let's talk a little bit about that and what was your guys' objectives behind the AI.
100%. I knew if we were going to build this thing out, I had to think bigger than just, we'll keep referencing the box. I needed bigger than the box. I needed fully capable. I needed this to be a new family member. Like that was kind of the new objective. So, how the AI works is it knows every item of inventory at any given time. And it's all live and happening in the second. So, in the version of the web chat that we have, someone's like, "Oh, I would like some information on this vehicle." Didn't even tell AI what it is, but because it's on the page scanning everything, it's like, that's a very cool 3500 you're looking at. Let me give you some more information on it. Does this one have all the options you want? It has leather. It just starts listing stuff, and you're just watching this conversation unfold, and you're like, holy smokes. And it's happening in 10 seconds, and there's 7 of them happening at the same time. And we kind of sat back when we turned the thing on and watched and was like, within our first hour, it was like, "Hey, would you like to come in for an appointment and check this thing out?" And the customer was like, "Yeah, that would be awesome. I'll be there at 10." And it's talking this casual. Like if I bring up the conversations, Eve, and that's who we named our AI, is just as fluent as this.
What did you name it? I didn't hear this.
Eve.
Eve. Okay, I love it. Okay.
Like inspired by the robot from Wall-E.
I love it.
And, all of a sudden we're kind of sitting here. The ownership's like, all around right here where I'm talking to you. And we're like jaw dropped. We're like, did this thing just, I was like, we got to tell someone this customer's coming in. Like what happened in that instant was everything changed, and it was always going to change, but we just didn't expect how big and how fast and how. So it was like, we got to go pull that car up and get keys here. And someone's going to come in asking for Eve. Like we haven't told anybody Eve existed yet. So it was like, for us, the first launch experience was just wild and crazy and proved everything that we imagined and dreamed. So then we kept fostering it, and we're like, okay, it needs to be able to do everything. So, it now can like help you, assist you with booking an appointment. It tells you all our promotions and stuff we had going on. But then we gave it like certain parameters where it's like, I don't know yet if it's the best thing to have a financial conversation about. So we've given it limitations and been like, I can get you to here, but let's move this to like, I'm going to get you connected with a manager.
And that's that dance. We were talking a little bit about it before we started recording, right? I was talking a little bit about the dance. And, I think this is where dealerships have an amazing opportunity to inject their operational process into a big part of their automated communication, their AI, right? Is this the case? At one point in time, I think of this as like a WWE wrestling match, all right? At what point in time do we tap the other person in? And then when do we tap the AI back in? And it's like a constant kind of like a tap in, tap out kind of a scenario, or what I call the dance, and it's just, the cool thing is being able to have that transition back and forth. All right. It just creates just what I would consider a very well-connected, meaningful conversation that ultimately ends up just creating a more loyal customer because they feel like there's just something there. There's like, we were talking a little bit about it earlier, right? When I was saying one of my first jobs was Radio Shack. It's like, hey, you got questions, we got answers, right? There's that type of level of connection that a customer feels confident when they hit that button, someone's going to be talking to them, right?
100%. And I think part of that connection is we get into this.
Yeah.
So what is different is like, why did you show me your phone, Josh? I'm not talking about your email. I'm talking like we're in your iMessage. Like that's where you're having this conversation. You're not
That's
stuck
where
on a
family is,
screen.
right? Right, Josh? That's where family is. If you think about like
Yes.
where do I have conversations with my family?
Well, and think about how many filters you have to get through to get to somebody. Like you have to be put into your iMessage. You don't just get there.
You have to be my
So
inner circle.
so what we saw happen was now a 98% response rate.
Jeez.
And the 2% that aren't responding is usually a technical error or an unsubscribe, like because it prompts you stop and whatever you go. But what happened now is Eve has helped the customer through the buying experience. So we're in there, our main line's in there. That customer comes up and is like, "Oh, I need to book an oil change. I'll just text Ron Hodgson." Eve takes care of it. So
There's
there's
just always
this,
somebody there. There's just always somebody there and
yes,
available, which just wildly changes. Again, we were talking about earlier. It's the experience. All right. The fact that just, hey, I hit a button and there's someone there to assist me. That just feels like another level of concierge, or like it goes beyond convenience. We were talking a little bit earlier
right,
about retention and convenience. That's more than just meeting the need. That's
right. And
eating.
it's like you referenced too, like imagine you're ordering a pizza, like you were saying, and I want to do it in one click of a button. Well, now you can do an oil change on text message. You want to get your tires changed, you just text Eve and she'll take care of it. Um, that's something to raise your eyebrows about. That's an experience that we're not used to in the auto industry.
We're
Or
definitely not, and it's that type of experience that I think ultimately drives loyalty. Look, Josh, I know we're towards the tail end of our time, and I feel like I could easily jam with you, dude, for like another 30 plus minutes on this topic. And we may have to do another episode of this because I still think there's some stuff that weren't able to actually cover today. But hey, before I let you go, though, for everybody out there watching and listening who maybe would like to connect with you and maybe even pick up and maybe continue some parts of this conversation, what would actually be the best way to connect with you, Josh?
oh, that's a great question. You can always reach me at with an email at josh@ronhodgson.com. That's or social media. I guess I'm on all those. Other than this, I kind of hide out in the shadows. I'm not really out there. I don't have a million followers or anything
Well,
like
there
that.
you
But
go, Josh. Now a bunch of people are going to be,
yeah, but if I'll connect on social media with you as well, and then if you post about this,
absolutely.
I can have you can throw my tags in there, and we can have conversation wherever. But that's the whole thing. That's what this is all about. Is like continue, conversation, and just like you felt it, that was my objective. It's so much bigger than 30 minutes,
It is,
and
but it's so much more meaningful, right? That's what it
yeah,
is. And but here's the other thing too, and I just want to leave this as just a mindset for anybody out there watching and listening. Now, everything that me and Josh have spoke about today requires one very crucial thing: is that it is a mindset of being intentional. All right. If you're not intentional, all right, with your communication strategies, if you're not intentional with the technologies that you're using, if you're not intentional with your people, your process, none of the stuff that Josh and the dealership has been able to execute you'll be able to execute. So you have to be intentional. You got to be willing to put in the time. Josh, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to jam with me today, because this has been a lot of fun. For everybody out there watching and listening, one of the biggest compliments you can give myself or Josh is share the show. Okay. If you got a friend or a colleague or a manager that needs to hear like the conversation that just happened today, I'm telling you, one of the biggest compliments you can ever give us is share the show. Again, for everyone out there, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, y'all have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Driven Loyalty Podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.